All right, hang on. All right. I need to have some kind of introduction music over here, like stuff that goes on. But aloha, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us on our live stream here. And it is a live stream. And so one thing I want to do is encourage you to, at any time, just make some comments, questions in the YouTube. Or anything, any little shout outs you want to do there. And the other thing is, if you want to be notified when we actually go live, I know sometimes I don't do it well in the notification, but you can subscribe and you'll be good to go, and we're set. So again, this is live. We're gonna be talking to a special guest today. I guess every guest for me is really special, so I don't want to say that this is the only time, but I'm super excited. There's a couple of reasons why we run this live stream from the in YouTube here to get this out to YouTube land, or normally I go all over the place, but I just kind of forgot just today because I was talking to Kelly. So we're just on YouTube. But one of the big reasons is because I've been talking to tons of interesting people over the last 12 to 14 months. And I just want to share that. So there's people with ideas, people with, not just ideas, but people who are acting on those ideas and changing and improving how we live, how we work here in Hawaii. So that's number one. The second thing that the second reason I want to do this is because I kind of want to shamelessly promote how could there be shame? We're giving away free computer training, in-person training all over the state. We're just turning out our new schedule. It began this Monday, July 26th, but we're offering free basic, did I say basic? Basic computer training for anybody in our state. Well, you have to be 18 or over, it's going to be at all of the community colleges, the campuses, and about 12 or so, let me make this a bit larger here, about, 12, 13 different libraries around the state. Ultimately, we want to get it at every library all around the state. There's a number right there that you can call. It's 235-7334. You call that one number and you can get to any of these campuses. You can find their schedule, and I should have done this earlier, you can put it in I'll put it in the chat later, but you can go to digitalreadyhawaii.org, and there's an actual schedule, like on this date, this time, this date, this time, all the way down for all of those campuses. And so then you're good to go. So that's definitely something that I wanted to promote here. For the record, I don't think that any of you who are watching this right now or in the replay probably need to go to this class. Don't go to this class. This is not for you. This is, when I say basic, did I say basic? It is an introduction to computers, to using using email, navigating the web. Those are the three things we want to focus on, because we're thinking that upskilling our workforce, our population in the state is going to help us to be resilient. So the WDC, the Workforce Development Council, started this Workforce Resiliency Initiative in the middle of 2020, though we were talking about resiliency and a resilient workforce in 2019. And so the plan was to start it in 2020, and then that thing, COVID-19 happened. And I won't say it accelerated it, but it did highlight the need for a resilience in our workforce. And so that's happening here. Super excited. So that is my shout out to that. Again, this is live. So if you have any questions, comments, drop them into the YouTube there, and we're good to go. I just muted myself. This is what we're going to be doing today. We're talking story today with somebody I've been waiting for a long time to speak to. It's Kelly Ueoka. He is the president of Pacxa. He's a legit tech guy. And so when I say legit tech guy here, we're talking about people who run technology stuff. He's an IT guy. So it's deep. It's deep in this. And we're going to be talking to him about tech work in Hawaii, working from home, remote work, how to get even a tech job, that kind of stuff. And I'm super thrilled. I'm going to stop talking and say, what's up, Kelly? How are you, man?
Hey,
Welcome.
hi. How are you?
Man, I'm so excited to have you on here. I'm fine. No, thank you. Thanks for thanking me. Don't thank me. I'm going to thank you for having us on here. It's been, I'm kind of gushing a little bit. I'm a big fan. I'm a fanboy here of you and what you're doing at Pacxa. And I'm really excited to share some of those things with you. So we're going to do a talk story. Yeah. And, earlier when you first came on, we were checking your mic and checking your camera. You're asking me questions, where I'm at, where you're at. That's what we're doing. So I don't want to do an interview. Okay. That's not, we're just going to be talking. It just so happens we're streaming it to the whole entire world. But I got to ask you, in a talk story thing, I know you're from Kauai, right?
Yeah.
Where did you go to high school? That's the first question I got to talk about. Where did you go to high school?
Yes, I went to Kauai school. I was born and raised Kauai on the west side, actually.
Okay.
Grew up in
Represent.
Bay. Represent. And after Hurricane Iniki, kind of decimated that, that community. It's funny, it ties into technology. I mean, we were without electricity, I think, for about 2 to 3 months in some parts of the island. And that forced me to move to Lihui and attend Kauai High School.
Gotcha. So west side, though, I know only one surf spot over there. I think it's called Pacxa. Pacxa, is that right?
Yeah.
Surprise, yeah.
Absolutely.
I can't go surfing there by myself. I would have to go with you.
Yeah.
You're gonna be you're not from here. You're not from here. So you grew up in Kauai, and this is an interesting thing. This right now you're the president of a tech company, and by tech company I mean that you do IT services. I'm gonna have you expand on that a little bit, real quick, for people who don't know who Pacxa or what Pacxa is, what Pacxa does. Can you give me the 30-second elevator pitch for what you guys do at Pacxa?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a technology integrator that focuses primarily on delivering some of our partner technologies into local organizations. So we partner extremely close with Microsoft, Oracle, HPE. And I like to say we're kind of at the ground floor of technology implementation. So we help build the infrastructure that runs business applications. And so it's very kind of like if you think about construction, we're like, the the footing and the framing guys, so to speak.
Okay. So when I was talking to my brother-in-law about construction, he's a full contractor. And, we're talking about my skills. He just laughed and he's super frustrated. I tried to be a construction guy about 25 years ago, and they wouldn't let me use a hammer. They just gave me a shovel. But thanks for trying to speak my language here. I like the idea of the infrastructure, the building it up. The names that you're sharing with us, you're dropping on me here, is Microsoft, Oracle. Those are big names. How did you go from West Side, surfing Pacalla, to working with Microsoft and Oracle or using those kind of things? What's the story there?
Yeah, I mean, alongside that, growing up on the West Side, I just had this interest in technology, and to be quite honest, played a lot of computer-based video games at the time. And we're talking about the first iteration.
What were you playing?
I believe the first game that I got into was Ghostbusters on a Commodore 64.
Commodore 64. Yeah. I always wanted one of those. Man, you guys are lucky.
Yeah, it was actually, I think my dad bought it for, trying to do some word processing, and
Mhm.
I just discovered this whole digital world in there. Of course, there's
Wow.
no internet right at the
Yep.
time,
Yep.
but very cool. I must have been like maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah. Oh,
And then
jeez.
right after that was the dawn of Nintendo,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
video game craze kind of took
Okay.
over.
Okay.
Followed me all through college. I was also a college athlete. I played football for Southern Oregon University, but
Hmm.
just in my spare time, I would just be at the computer lab.
Hmm.
And I don't know how it happened, but just had such an interest in understanding how things work,
Yeah.
how video games are built, and how the internet. That was kind of like the dawn of the internet too at the time. And I was just intrigued by it, and followed me. It still continues today as my number one passion in life, besides my family and my
Right. Right.
friends, etc. So,
That's great that you can have that connection to, I mean, like a passion, something that you love to do, and that you can work on. Like I think that was the spiel back in the day, right? Find your passion, and the money will follow. And that's not necessarily true. I have a friend of
yeah,
mine who plays soccer. That's his passion, and he's no way he's playing soccer professionally and going there. But hey, did your dad encourage you, or your mom or dad or anything encourage you in this computer thing, or is it just the
not
Commodore
not
64 and
not really. No, they just kind of said, so obviously they saw me on the computer a lot, and I would actually, very similarly to how in this day and age parents tell their kids they too much screen time.
that's right.
I was definitely guilty of that.
Right.
But I think they definitely saw that I was interested and was supportive of whatever. They didn't understand what the opportunities were,
Right.
right?
Who
I
did?
mean, yeah, I mean, and still today, it's now technology is so broad, and it's
Yeah.
almost like, I mean, if it's in everybody's hands, and
Hmm.
every business and every organization is using some kind of technology
Right.
to operate. And so I think now the opportunities are becoming a little bit more prevalent, but I mean, more clear, but still, it's there's tons of opportunity.
Yeah.
And before, they were just trying to quantify it. So I think that was the main difference, is that they were just very supportive after seeing how interested I was
Yeah. Yeah.
in IT.
I I'm interested in that kind of progression from how some child might go from this introduction to computer to this in school to this in a technology company, and always curious about how parents. It's too late for me. My kids are all old, so I ask them for support.
Yes.
Our house is right now. We're My two boys are the ones that have bought all of the GPUs so that people can't have them, so they can do their mining. So
Awesome.
our
Very
house
good.
is super hot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Very
get my
good.
own mining set up too.
Very smart. Very
Yeah,
smart of them to do so.
yeah, they're doing great. But I wish I had a Commodore 64. Thanks for bringing that back up. I might go see if I can find one. I remember the Super Mario Brothers. I still play it. Still play Bomberman off of Nintendo with my kids, but I'm getting beat by them. I think I'm interested too when you start talking about the opportunities out there. When one of the last times that we spoke, we were talking about opportunities, and it was one of the first times in the last year and a half that I actually got excited about tech. And when I say tech, I mean like the kind of stuff that you're doing for opportunities for people here in Hawaii. I think like what you just said was a lot of people. I'm sorry, a lot of the job, almost all the businesses or companies that we're looking at now have to use technology in some fashion. Whether you're inputting something at the front desk, or you're concierge, or text messaging people in a hotel. There's some kind of technology. So I'm just saying every job is a tech job. But the technology that you're talking about is like along that continuum. It's far to the high level of tech. And so that got me excited. When you say there's a lot of tech jobs or tech opportunities, what does that mean now compared to, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago? What does the tech opportunities mean to you?
Yeah, it's very different from, five, even more recently, I would say 3 to 5 years ago. The dawn of what we call cloud computing is really going to start. It's already permeating throughout our consumer lives. I mean, when you want to watch a movie now, you don't really have to go to the theaters. You can just pull up Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever have you. And, all of that information, that content is running quote unquote in the cloud. And, essentially that poses a lot of new opportunities for IT pros because it cuts out a lot of the legacy complexity that we would have had to go through to build something. And a lot of organizations want to make investments in digital technologies to help drive efficiencies in their business, but at the same time, now cybersecurity has become paramount. I mean, Pacxa is almost becoming a cybersecurity provider because we have to. There's no system that we would implement or want to implement without assuring that we're doing everything in our power to secure said system. And so that poses a lot of other opportunity because, like I said, these things are already built. Like these solutions are already built in somebody's cloud. For example, Amazon Web Services is huge. Microsoft Azure is huge. Oracle's cloud is catching up. And there's a lot of pre-built solutions that people can learn. I don't want to say easily learn, but they can more easily learn to operate and maintain those types of systems versus what it would have took 3 to 5 years ago to learn how to operate something that you built yourself from scratch.
Right.
As turnkey as that's supposed to be, it's still extremely complex and requires a lot of knowledge. So
that part right there is getting me. And again, the two things that you just highlighted, right? Everything's in the cloud. That I don't have to build it. I can just go and learn it and support it. And cybersecurity, those are the things I think I know I've heard about, but haven't been digging deep into. And you were the one out of all the people that I spoke to that has really opened up my eyes to those opportunities. And by the way, I'm going to straight up full disclosure say that I tried taking an AWS free online class and I'm out. That's not for me. He says it's not easy. I'm like, oh, my eyeballs are rolling back in the back of my head. So it takes a certain person to get into that, but those opportunities are available. Yeah.
It is definitely available. And for people that aren't really, highly technical, I would say, or driven by that quote unquote passion to learn about how all of this works and then to actually implement something in the cloud, there are other avenues to get into technology. There's our workforce development program, as you know, Kala at Pacxa has some focus areas, and not all of them are highly technical. I mean, in fact, one of them is project management and business analysis. And so there's always areas that, like you said, every company is becoming a tech company. Every job is becoming tech enabled. So there are some technical roles that still tie into how you implement technology. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. So I don't have to be the AWS guy, right? I can come in and help you out. And so can you expand on this? And that's a point I want to highlight too, because sometimes people think technology, they think that they have to get into coding, coal miners to coders. But you're saying that the opportunities in technology are huge, even for people like myself whose eyeballs glaze over when they're looking at AWS schematics.
Absolutely. And the reason I say that is because now it's, the opportunities are so broad. So, I mean, let's just talk about the coding, thing for a second. People who have no tech experience yet would probably envision, pounding the keyboard, writing all these lines of code. But in fact, I believe the industry is starting to go a different way where it's low code solutions. And you as a person can apply those low code solutions to solve a business problem.
Wow.
And it's basically using your brain and how, what you know about the business or what you know about the organization or even a problem that you're trying to solve to help, take that forward by using these low code solutions. So
I love that.
Yeah, the industry is really, really making it easy, like I said, and I think now's a good time, especially for Hawaii, to see about how to leverage these commodity
Yeah.
technologies.
There's a phrase that we've been borrowing from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. They're talking about problem solving in a technology-rich environment. And that's what it
Mhm.
sounds like that you're describing, where people have certain tools that it's not about developing or building it, DIYing it in their
Mhm.
garage, making
Yeah.
DOS or something.
Yeah.
But there's a ready-made solutions or tools, and then you just got to know how to use those tools. And if you have the ability to think a certain way to solve problems using those tools, then that sounds like something that is a good thing to have, a good skill to have going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, in a nutshell, that's the value that we're looking for. Is that because again, we don't pretend like we could build something better than the Googles or the Microsofts or the Amazons of the world, and so our partnerships, really allow us to take advantage of what they've built and then use what we know about these business problems, or like I
Yeah.
said, any kind of problem that you're trying to solve. And again, the tools are readily available to help us do so. um, and now, I mean, you just think of, like I said, maybe 3 to 5 years ago, the effort that we put into building a system, right? Or like provisioning a server, as
Yeah.
IT pros would reference. Now, I mean, you do that literally in seconds from your, I mean, literally from your mobile device. You click a few buttons and server's ready.
Okay. I love the sound of that. It's been super intimidating. I think, for me growing up I think the first computer I worked with was like an Apple IIc or something, it was like in our library in high school.
Um,
And I remember playing one of those games where it was all text. You enter a cave or you see a cave. Do you want to go in? Yes. There's a flashlight on the bottom. Do you pick it up?
yeah.
No. It's like, and you just do that. But then from this whole thing, now what you're talking about is because I did the kind of basic coding thing or basic 20 go to 10 kind of things or whatever. But the way that you're describing it here is that people with certain skill sets, or not skill sets, maybe mindsets,
Yeah.
could just, and that is a different way of approaching this. And this is why this gets me so excited talking to you. What are the mindsets for somebody who you would be looking for example, to bring into your company or to bring into tech, problem solving, but give me some of the mindsets that would be somebody who would be working good in this kind of area.
Yeah, we've had a myriad of folks come through and be successful, especially now with our workforce development program starting to take off. And again, Kyle, as you know, that program was built to help displaced industry workers find meaningful employment in the local technology industry. And the mindset is, if you want to learn and you're open to looking for avenues on how to solve problems, I think you can have some success there. And if you're technical, even
Yeah.
more so, all the better, right? Like if you're a gamer, naturally you kind of gravitate
Right.
towards the Microsofts or the Oracles or the AWS of the world, right? Um, but again, it's also folks that have some experience in the industry. It might be legacy experience, which is good too. Um, they can come, and if they're willing to change and understand that there is a huge transformation occurring in the industry, then again, the opportunities for those people abound as well. So
Are the skill sets or the mindsets different for somebody coming in with a legacy, approach to things than now? Are they different,
sure,
or do they
sure.
get in the way?
Yeah, at times it does because,
Mhm.
people, I mean, just hesitance to change, right?
Mhm.
And really understanding that, hey, if I move my systems or if I move something, to the cloud, what happens to me? I mean, I built that
Right.
system. And so, it's definitely not the case that you're instantly obsoleted because, like I said, that legacy knowledge or the legacy experience will only help you to now operate these newer cloud-based systems, and it makes their jobs easier almost. Again, this is for the person who has the legacy
Right.
experience.
Right.
It makes
Right.
their job easier, and it certainly doesn't obsolete them, but it allows organizations to have those types of folks or IT pros focus on what's really important to the business as opposed to just operating, an email system
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
yeah, something that we can easily deliver through a cloud provider.
Okay, yeah, that's game changing, and I think what's also changing is almost the stereotype of the person who is the IT person, right? Because back in the day, you'd have maybe 30 people in a big company that was IT support, and one person who could speak English. Yeah, one
Right.
person. I mean, who could converse conversational English, right? Everybody else spoke computerese,
Right.
and it sounds like that ability to communicate, to work with the end user, to support them, because you're a fantastic communicator. You using metaphors and analogies to help me understand what you're talking about. You're just great at communicating, and it's a fantastic skill that you have. But back in the day, that stereotype of the IT person was, they talk in language you don't understand. They talk about ports. They talk about this and plug this. Did you check this? And I go, I
Right.
have no
Right.
idea what you're talking about. So
Right.
that's a big change, though, yeah.
It's a huge change, and I completely understand where you're coming from. I mean, I kind of experienced that myself, and I always felt. I mean, I started in tech support, or I guess you would call it the quote unquote help desk, is where I got my start for a small startup company that wasn't based in Hawaii. But that said, I would just notice the frustration of people calling me because the systems didn't do what it was supposed to, or they didn't know how to get what they needed out of it. And I just felt like, man, what an opportunity to just explain to them, hey, this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you got to do if you want to make it work that way. And then it would reduce the calls, right? If you just took
Yep.
the time, 10 minutes, to probably walk them through, and of course you got to be calm because these conversations always get, so that it comes back to my point, Kala. If you have interpersonal skills,
Yeah.
that's valuable too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to be able to speak computer ease. In fact, because of low code, because of cloud, because of
Mm-hmm.
those types of industry trends, now it kind of eliminates the need to have to speak computer use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you can talk to people and you enjoy like helping people through a problem, then it almost becomes easier now.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I would say that you definitely got to have some of that,
Yeah.
and that the computer ease support personnel kind of thing it is kind of going by the wayside.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like when I call, my internet provider, I call, I don't know, tech support now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's night and day from what it
Yeah.
was 3 to 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
so much better now.
Amazing.
It's
Like they're
amazing.
talking. They're asking you we're using real words,
Real
and
world.
real questions.
Yeah, take this plug and
Yep.
plug it in, right?
Yeah.
It's like easy, and they make
Yeah.
it so simple. And I think, again, God bless the technology, because I think it's gotten to a point where it allows us to do to have this ease of use concept
Okay.
be realized.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't know if people who are listening to this or watching this later on, whatever, in the replay, are getting the same picture that I'm getting. But this is a giant switch, and I was kind of ignorant even when I asked you the question, "What's different about IT now than it was 5, 10 years ago?" You're like, "What's different about IT 3 years ago?" Like this surge in the cloud services is changing, transforming the game in ways that I didn't even really fully realize until talking to you. So one of the questions too that I wanted to, or one of the things I wanted you to share, just so we can send this out to as many people as we can, is what is this workforce development program that you're talking about at Pacxa? Like, it sounds like you've taken on, and I know a little bit about it, but that you've taken on like some personal kuleana, some personal responsibility to help people in Hawaii get technified or whatever, get tech jobs.
Yeah,
Explain
absolutely.
that to me, to us actually.
Certainly, Kyle. Thank you for asking about it. So our parent company, as you know, is Island Holdings, which a sister company to Paxos Island Insurance, Atlas Insurance. Tradewin Capital Group, Pyramid Insurance, and some other entities that have been around for very long and have a long-standing, reputation of wanting to help the community and help Hawaii really. And so my charter was to help educate and look at the landscape. And this is happening maybe right after the pandemic. And so that kind of really accelerated our thinking behind, hey, can we use our partnerships and can we look at what's happening in the industry to rapidly reskill people, because there's going to be a lot of folks who don't have jobs. And technology was a great catalyst because, as you and I are doing right now, it kind of feels like you're sitting right across me, but you're probably 100 miles away. And so being able to work remotely has always been something that's prevalent in the IT industry. And again, our partnerships with the Microsofts and the Oracles and HPs and of the world, we deliver those kinds of the vendor technologies every day. That's what we do, and we have a lot of knowledge on how to help people to gain skills, using the partner training that's readily available to us. And those, between Amazon and Microsoft, Oracle, Google, it's just becoming too big to ignore, right? The presence of their technology in our everyday lives, and as you look at what organizations are doing worldwide, is too large to ignore the presence in IT, in information technology. And so our program is really built to help these people gain an industry recognizable certification as quickly as possible, while providing on-the-job training through work that we have via our customer base. And so it's very commoditized work that we would have people learn against. And of course, it's not putting anybody at risk. Again, we have all the expertise. There's other avenues. Like I said, you don't have to really be technical, but it could be project management. It could be business analysis. It could even be some kind of cybersecurity governance that these people work on. And, it gives them a fast, accelerated view of the industry landscape, especially one for Hawaii, because it's customers that are based out of Hawaii. So I think the program is really starting to show, it's really starting to prove itself. And we recently hired an executive director who's helping us take it forward, even, to scale the program to more people, because like I said, my concern was that there was going to be so many people out of a job. Could we use technology again as the catalyst to provide meaningful work quickly, rapidly? And I think that's what we've done. I can confirm that we've done that, but now the next step of the entire program is to just scale it.
Exactly. And one of the stories you actually, that you shared with me earlier, I forgot when it was, like a couple months ago, was somebody who came in very, very low tech. Maybe, I don't even know what that means. You have a smartphone, maybe you check your email, you're on social media or something, but very low tech, and was a massage therapist. And you and Pacxa took that person, and I don't know what it was, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months or something, and upskilled her. Tell us about that process, because that amazes me, and I've been misquoting you and probably butchering that story, but get that on this thing for us.
Yeah, so we saw this person, talented, smart person, and came into our organization as kind of like an intern, or like a step above an intern, and we just articulated, hey, here's what we need. Do you think you can do it if we gave you the avenues to learn and the tools? At the same time, our staff would help mentor this person into kind of like that business analysis, project management role. And in 3 months, she was able to go get an entry level industry recognized certification. And that goes a long way, because once you go down that road,
Mhm.
right, that's what I think a lot of employers will be looking for. And it doesn't have to be, again, on project management, but
Right.
anything that's, like the carpentry of IT,
Mhm.
cybersecurity, networking, cloud and infrastructure. That's kind of where I think what employers will be looking for as
Right.
far as technical certification.
Love
So
it.
in
The
3 months,
certification, 3 months.
yeah, 3 months off and running. We ended up hiring that person and two
Wow.
others that came from different industry as well.
Wow. See, this is blowing my mind. I've been saying for the last year, hey, there's all these online certification things. And like you mentioned, Google, Coursera, LinkedIn, Microsoft is offering all these things. There's skills initiative. If you have some basic skills, maybe internet connection, you can, and I've been saying that you can transform your career trajectory in 12
You
months.
can. I,
But
I
you did three.
firmly, I firmly believe you can. And
Yeah.
it's so funny that I watch the kids, the younger folks now who are gamers.
Yeah.
Um, and, when these things fail, when they cannot play, and they gotta troubleshoot it,
Yeah.
they're kind of like IT guys already.
Yes.
Like, when
Yes.
the network goes down at their
Yep.
house,
Yep.
they know all the steps to
Yep.
take to
Yep.
troubleshoot. How come the internet not working, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep. Yep.
ironically, that's the same thing we would do, right? If we had an issue at our office with a customer, we would walk the customers through, or we would perform the same exact steps almost. And
That's
so
funny.
I firmly believe that there is a opportunity to, yes, transform your career quickly
Yes.
with what we're doing or what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. And I've been saying quickly, like 6 to 12 months, and you're already saying less than that. But one of the big things that you pointed out was, in terms of characteristics of somebody who could take advantage of this, was not that you have like some previous, I'm going to call them what you use, the legacy skills, but you have the ability to learn. And there's that one quote, I think, from some American philosopher who said that in times of drastic change, it's the learners who will inherit the future. And I think this is what you're sharing here. If you can learn, we can teach you. How did you teach somebody in 3 months? What was the courses or the paths? I mean, did you sit down and lecture them? Did they go on the computer? What was it?
Yeah, so I mean, anybody with internet access now can
Yep.
gain, can get technology training that's applicable to what we're talking about. But I think our differentiator is that we're providing people with, some real world experience at the same time, right? And we're actually paying them to do so, because it's a benefit for us to, help with like I said, we need staff to help us with some of the commodity aspects of our work. And I think that's one of the main differentiators. But to answer your question, these platforms are really readily available. We talked about it a little bit before the call, but like LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, Stormwind. I mean, there's dozens of training platforms that all provide the relevant, learning content to help get certifications, whether that's with AWS, whether it's a PMI, whether it's cybersecurity, they're all out there. I would say that some of the more specialized ones, like, maybe the Department of Defense would require for cybersecurity, it's not in line with what I'm talking about now, but I think there's still an opportunity there.
Yeah.
And that might be for the legacy IT pro who's looking to transform, their career also. It could be midway through. And, again, with cloud forcing everybody to look at the industry as a whole, I think that's a good opportunity also.
Yeah. Some of the acronyms that you're dropping there, I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know what you're
yeah,
talking about. And I've never
yeah.
heard of these other sites. I mean, LinkedIn Learning, I think Upwork or something, like those kind of things I've heard of. But these other ones that are specific to technology is something that I think if somebody's coming into your workforce development program, they'll be exposed to, obviously. But I think just to highlight and underscore one of the things that you said that stands out to me is the fact that you give them real world experience. So I can go take the certification, but then I think I got a certification, I'm gonna go get a job, but people are still looking for experience. So you're giving them experience, you're giving them hours, like time on the field, supervised, Time under the bar. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger used to talk about that when they asked him how he got so strong. You got to spend time under the bar.
Yeah.
But you're giving them that supervised with like a spotter. And
Mhm.
that is huge for getting into tech jobs. You know, when you talk about differentiator, I'm all in on that. That's huge.
Yeah. So I mean, we're giving them, getting them under the bar, but a lot of spotters, like
Yes,
a lot
a
of
lot of
spotters,
spotters.
and not only spotting, but telling them. I mean, to use that reference, like work on your form, right?
Yeah.
Like you just bench, you don't just go crazy, right?
Mhm.
Like so, we're actually, also walking them through. I don't want to say we're holding their hand, but we're just helping them understand, um, the do's and don'ts
Mhm.
early on, and then all the while they're also going through the technology certification
Mhm.
training path, right?
Mhm.
Of their choosing, right?
Mhm.
So that there's a lot of variables there,
Yeah.
but again, these commoditized platforms for learning have made it so easy for people to gain access again to more of the industry recognizable certifications.
Yes. Yes.
And you're correct on, hey, I go get the certification and then what, right?
Yeah.
Like if there was no on the job component, then they would probably be halfway there. They would
Mhm.
still have to find something. But I think that's another part of it, right? Employers need to understand that it's very difficult for a kid coming out of college, to already have 1 to 2 years
Yep.
of technology-based experience, and it would be working in the help desk. Again, that's kind of, I don't want to say it's unreasonable, but I think there's a give get with that.
Yep.
Um, you
From
know,
employers.
yeah, maybe 6 months,
Mhm.
right? Experience is in my
Spotting,
opinion. Yeah,
providing support, on the job
exactly.
coaching, and then you give that and you get some results. You get what you put in there.
Exactly, because who in this day and age,
Mhm.
especially with um, the college graduates these days, from everybody, from even the overachievers, they're not going to want to stay in an entry level IT role, for 30 years. That's
Yeah.
not realistic.
Yeah.
That in itself too is a stepping stone to something else, right? To
Yeah.
other opportunities.
Talk about that just for a little bit. When you think about tech, I think about gig. You know, like you can work remotely. You can work wherever you want to. Do you see more people maybe getting into this as like a gig worker, getting 1099s, doing project based work, and then hopping out, or how does that fit into the equation in 2022? You know.
Yeah, I think that could be, well, good point. I mean, it's probably more of a, not a churn,
Mhm.
but like I said, a stepping stone,
Mhm.
right? Like you take an entry level position, and all that is experience for you to get understanding of the industry, understanding of like entry level, again, commodity technology work, and then you move on, right? I mean, you probably stay in those roles for probably no more than 2 to 3 years, in my opinion,
Mhm.
and then you look for other opportunity.
Yeah.
And because differently from 3 to 5 years ago, there are so many. There's the technology, uh, need is so great that there's a ton of other opportunities.
Okay.
And we talked about it earlier, like this low code thing,
Yeah.
right? Don't get me wrong. There's still the need for developers and people
Mhm.
who know how to build things from scratch. But that's it. The low code thing, it's a rapid opportunity, right? You
Right.
get in, hey, I want to do that instead.
Yeah.
You can go do it quickly.
Yeah, that I like the rapid opportunity. I like the adaptability. I like the flexibility. You know, we don't know what's happening. You know, you're talking about 3 years ago going to code. I mean, the low code stuff, the cloud stuff.
Mhm.
You know, what's going to happen 3 years from now? And I think that is. Somebody asked me, I don't know where it was this morning. I was in a meeting, a Zoom call, and they said, you know, is your program? We're doing the workforce resiliency initiative, right? And we're trying to help people learn stuff. And really, one of the big goals is for people to be able to know enough to or learn enough to continue to learn online. Because if we think if you can learn online, you can learn whatever you need to learn. You
Mhm.
can go on, spend your time doing this, and come out with a certification if you can learn online. And so when we start looking at these opportunities 2 3 years from now, nobody knows what those things are, but you've identified some possibilities, some options for people. And me go back to one of the things that you said about gamers, you know, where your internet goes down, you try and solve the problem. And I think that's what motivated my kids a lot. We played a lot of Xbox even and network
Yeah.
them together, right? And we have little
Yeah.
parties, and I'm kicking them off my stuff when I'm on a live stream. You can't take my bandwidth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is kind of the thing. I know the term latency
Yeah.
because it hurt me when I'm playing video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lag.
Same here. I mean, they know now about latency
Mhm.
and how it affects what they're doing. And it's no different
Yeah.
from, again, because of cloud, right? Because latency, especially for Hawaii being, unique in our geography, connecting to these services that aren't really hosted in Hawaii, the only way to get there is via the public internet. So
Right.
latency is a big, huge deal for everybody, gamers, businesses alike, that have made investments in cloud. But again, it poses a unique opportunity, right? And like you said, the people coming up now, I mean, growing up, you're gonna know about these things, right? Whether you like it or not, almost, even if you're not a gamer,
Right.
if you can't use a phone, if your smartphone apps don't work,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna try and figure out why,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Your Netflix is spinning.
oh man, that's the
It's
worst.
terrible. Like,
I mean, yeah, for college kid or whatever, they're like, internet's down, like, oh my God, we gotta solve this problem. And
yes.
they almost know enough to say, hey, okay, let me just use my phone connection then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just connect from my home internet and I can watch on my phone, right? They
Yeah.
almost,
And I'm watching right now, like the image that I was getting from your camera is super clean, and now it's going in and out, and I'm wired. I told you, and I'm gonna be like, I need to get a better
yeah,
thing.
I'm wired too. Let me see if I can.
Tell
Gosh,
me why this help me troubleshoot this. Why is your
yeah,
camera? This is real life, real life. I got an IT guy on the
unfortunately,
phone.
unfortunately, the troubleshooting step I would take is to disconnect and connect back quickly.
Yes, it sounds like a Windows guy. Back in the
Like
day,
reboot.
I was using
That,
Windows all the time, right? And
yeah,
PC
and
things,
I
and
apologize. I apologize, but there's a lot of variables here. I am hardwired in to my office internet, but I think potentially, yeah, there's latency, and I'm not familiar with this platform either.
yes,
But I was impressed with how easily it worked, Colin.
yeah,
This thing was
yeah.
like a one-click thing,
Tricky,
to join.
huh? Yeah, this is it's
Yeah,
called Ecamm, and it's a Mac base only
I
right now,
see. I
but it's
see.
just for live streaming,
I
and it's
see.
an option to like something like OBS, which is
Mhm.
free, but you got to dig into it. You got to DIY it, and I just don't have time anymore. Like I was saying, I used to use Windows, and I had an IT guy in our office. I call him, and he goes, just reboot." I'm like, reboot? When if I want to solve the problem? He's all, "You're on Windows."
You know,
You know.
yeah, and I am using Windows right now, and I don't see anything in particular. But if you want, that would kind of still be my answer too.
Yeah, funny. It's the same thing. Like I told you, like when my kids were young, we used to, build computers and have them, and we actually homeschooled our kids. And one of the reasons I did was because I went to our local elementary school down the street. I went to a parent meeting, and I'm like, "You have one old crazy computer. I have more computing power in my house than like this whole building I was in." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" And back then it wasn't as, my kids are all old. I think our youngest is just graduating right now from UH. He has one more class, but he's like 24, 25. And back then it was kind of like if you're homeschooling kids, you're like crazy,
Mhm.
But it was really because we had all this internet access. We had Roadrunner, I think, at the time, and I was
Yeah.
really unhappy when I like to share, but when I would see the Roadrunner truck come to my neighbor's house, I was unhappy because I know that we're sharing bandwidth, and I don't want to, so I want my own dedicated, line here. But I just don't want to know about that stuff. And what you're saying in low code. One of the reasons I switched to a Mac, I'm in a gated community. I don't care. I don't want to know how to. I don't want to upgrade my computer. But that sounds like what you're describing as a low code environment. If you can solve problems using these tools that you have, like you can get into a tech job, and that still just blows my mind.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, and cloud, low code, again, the industry's trends, going that way, allow people to really not have to worry as much about the infrastructure, albeit like I'm saying that as I say that, right, my internet is getting spotty. And so that is another concern, right? Is that as we look at cloud and look at taking advantage of these large industry vendor based solutions, um, we're at the mercy of the internet.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I certainly know that there's nobody, Pacxa is in a hybrid configuration right now. We have a lot of employees working remotely. So it's probably 99% sure it's not a bandwidth issue at my office, but I'm at the mercy of the providers. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a concern for Hawaii. Again, given our geography,
Yeah.
It's made some organizations hesitant about cloud. But that said, I think again in 3 years we're not going to even be worrying about things like this anymore. Like this problem here will be we'll laugh at it, Kala, someday.
I'm still laughing now. I think it just was ironic, and I feel like I feel guilty. I told you I was wired, but then I'm wired to a Orca, or I'm not Orca. What is this thing called?
Orbi.
Orbi.
Yeah.
I'm wired to an Orbi hub or satellite, and not to the actual router itself. So my son has a cable. It drives my wife nuts. That comes from our downstairs up the stairwell into his room, into his computer. And he says, "Oh, I can't connect wirelessly." But I think it's because of the latency, the lag, and and I should have done that too. Just stole his wire, stole his cable.
Yeah. It could be a bunch of things, right? But
look at you solving my problems. You can't help
my
it.
solution would be thing would be disconnect real quick and come back.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that'd be so fun. We have people been on this call for a while. And if you have questions, again, this is live. And this is the thing that I want people to practice is asking questions on live streams. I'm going, you can ask me questions too. But if you're on this thing, if you're watching this live, take advantage of that live thing. We have Kelly from Pacxa here. Just incredible background, knowledge base, and some vision. What do you think, speaking of vision, do you expect for Hawaii? When you look at this technology, is there space for Hawaii in this field? Do we need to change anything? What do you got? What are you thinking?
I mean, I honestly think, with the Department of Defense presence we have here, and just what I've seen so far with, the local IT industry, I honestly believe there's a good opportunity, or a very strong opportunity, to make Hawaii some sort of tech-enabled hub for, the world. I mean, I recently heard about University of Hawaii hosting a esports tournament, and our geography may allow for some advantage there, again because of the latency as you and I are unfortunately experiencing. But that said, it's in between U.S. mainland and Asia Pacific, so there's a good opportunity. And again, like I said, because of the Department of Defense presence in Hawaii, I firmly believe that there's a strong opportunity right now to have Hawaii be some kind of tech-enabled hub, a conduit, if you will, into Asia Pacific.
That's interesting. Back in the day, like whaling. Let's go way back, right? Like 1700s or something. No, 1800s, 1820s, 30s. No, 1830s, 40s, 50s maybe. Whaling, big deal in Hawaii. And one of the reasons it was a big deal is because people could come and resupply in our islands, and the whaling ships. Pearl Harbor, critical for the U.S.'s presence in the Pacific. And I think what you just did for me again was highlight a potential kind of unique service Hawaii could provide here, again, because of our location and that need to connect, but not necessarily connect ships to resources, but connect even gamers or whatever, businesses through this positioning that we have in the Pacific.
Yeah, I think with the DoD, the focus will be on a lot of industries.
Interesting.
construction, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, fixing
Mhm.
ships. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a ton of different industries that I think Hawaii could, again, really be an enabled hub
Mhm.
for Asia Pacific. And that said, it comes back to the workforce development and
Mhm.
being able to skill people
Mhm. Mhm.
in these industries.
Yes.
But I gotta go back to because it's not rocket science.
Mhm.
You know, it's commoditized, fairly entry level work, and the technology's brought us to a point where, we don't have to DIY 50% of the way there.
Yeah.
It's already there for us,
Mhm.
and so if we're passionate about learning it, then we have a good opportunity. So
I'm loving what you're saying, and again, highlighting, underscoring it, circling it. I got a question from Jeannie, who says, talking about your workforce development program that you are doing in Paxa, and shout out to Island Holdings for how they're working with you on this. There's a couple of people that I've been talking to there. Bernard, I think, is in HR, who
yeah,
I've hey, can we figure out how we can get some digital literacy there? That we can do some tests there. Cassie, who also does like training.
yeah.
But Jeannie was talking about the parent company expecting a certain level of ROI from this workforce development program that you guys are using. Is there anything that Island Holdings is asking of you or requiring of you all?
No, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, this thing is close to us because of the long-standing reputation that Island has had in helping Hawaii basically, and so I've extended the program to some other folks inside of state government, and there's no expectation of anything really. It's to help people
Yeah.
understand. It's to get the word out about what we can do, in terms of entry level technology work here in Hawaii, and I think we're proving it out. So separately, our program will go forward, and certainly can't continue doing it at no cost
Yeah.
forever. But it does benefit us as we gain, talent,
Yeah.
as we're able to hire talent
Yeah.
from wherever.
Mhm.
Like I said, displaced industry is very important to me
Mhm.
because I know that there's a lot of people that are out of jobs right now,
Mhm.
and so yeah, if we can help any of those people,
Yeah.
it's success in my opinion.
That's fantastic. I know even 2 or 3, 4 years before the pandemic, big companies were upskilling their employees. Like AT&T, spending $1 billion, I think, on 200,000 employees, recognizing that if they don't, they're going to have that legacy skill set that's not going to be able to operate in the current environment or
Right.
the future environment. And Amazon was spending $700 million, like 100,000, and this was pre-pandemic, so this was already going on. And I think what we're trying to encourage people through the Workforce Development Council and our resilience initiative is to upskill and
Yeah.
just have that internally. But what you're looking at is upskilling like everybody in the state, not just people like internally that are already part of your company, but people who you can bring into. And I love that idea. How are you going to scale this? What's the plan for getting this out to 1,000 people?
Of course, like I said, we can't continue to self-fund it if we
Yeah.
want to scale it. So that would be one avenue to help scale. But I wanted to just touch on that point you just made earlier, is that this does not only apply to technology. It could apply to those different industries that I mentioned as well, because I
Yeah.
know that there are vendor-based, industry recognizable certifications that can be attained that employers would be looking for, and it's becoming too big to ignore that there's organizations that use vendors that they prefer. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's like Microsoft, or it might be more glaring in technology because those are the
Yeah.
between Microsoft and AWS, those are the two leaders right now in the cloud computing
Mhm.
arena. And so, like I said, it's kind of too big to ignore them. But I know that there's other avenues, to structure programs where people can go get both on the job training based learning, and
Mhm.
then going towards some kind of certification that's
Mhm.
applicable in their industry also.
Right.
And so, I guess to answer your question, for us, we will continue to fund what we can,
Yeah.
and help especially help displaced industry workers. But then if we want to scale just the training component, at this point, I'm open to having people who come through our program get employment elsewhere.
Yeah.
That would be a massive success for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the key is this: how do we scale? How do we scale this?
I think that is the biggest problem. There's almost nobody that I could find who would dispute the possibilities and the opportunities and the options that you're describing. And you're not talking about, like, I think you mentioned something like meaningful work, but it's not just meaningful, but you can make some paycheck on this.
No, yeah, I mean, it's gainful. I want to say it's gainful employment. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, we don't. No, this is not. Once you come in, you get to the program. We are not looking for minimum wage jobs,
Yes.
etc. in technology, because those don't really exist.
Yes.
There's no like minimum wage, job,
Right.
unless it's more internship based. But
Right.
that's not
Right.
again, that's not what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Right. No, I talked to somebody from San Francisco who was saying that I think the unemployment there for people in tech is like 1%. You have to want to not work to be unemployed. And he says, people coming out of college, you have no experience, you're six figures. And my son recently just graduated. I told UH West Oahu, and he graduated with a philosophy degree, which I love. And I love it. He's pretty tech enabled. He's the stuff that he's talking about. But I'm like, hey, I was talking to one guy from Chaminade who is running some data science program. And it's free. They have all these scholarships or whatever. And I said, hey, you may want to consider that. I would love to have a philosophy degree with some data science. And mostly because, and I think you might get this, when you start looking at AI, self-driving cars, one of the things that my son was working on, a project, was who makes the decisions for how a self-driving car drives. Like if you have somebody in front of you, like there's an accident, potentially coming up, but there's a person here and a child here, who makes that decision? And so there's some ethics issues that have to do with automation or AI or self-driving or kind of cars. And so I'm like, ooh, like it sounds like if I would have planned it to help my son, plan this pathway, it would make me sound really, on it. But what a great combination, just to be able to think philosophically, ethically about decisions that AI will make in self-driving cars, or anything out down the future.
I mean, that's the kind of thinking that proves technology, it poses massive opportunity, because somebody with a philosophy degree, right, may have a lot of value in that arena, right? Like AI, like there's going to be there already are ethical concerns around, hey, facial recognition. Yes. Like I can easily pick a photo and I know who that is, right? I plug it into a database that's publicly available.
Yes.
You can go find who these people are. I mean, industries are looking at how to take advantage of that, but then the privacy protection is extreme right now. So again, that's a great example, and congratulations to your son.
I was astounded when he came up with that. And for everybody who was out there going, what was he going to do with the philosophy degree? That's what they've been asking me for the last year and a half. When I say that, I said, I love philosophy. And they're like, what's he going to do? Yeah. And I couldn't answer it until just recently. Maybe he's going to do this.
But also I want to give credit to the higher education, institution for putting out another program like that, on the side kind of thing for data science, AI, et cetera, because they also, everybody recognizes the importance, of those technologies going forward. So,
shout out. I'm to Chaminade. I'm hoping that my son might be interested in that. I don't know. He's doing all kinds of stuff that I don't understand, and they're coming to me with ideas now, and I go, you just tell me what you want me to do. I finally got my 100 Doge coins. I wanted the little Doge coins from a year ago, and I couldn't get them in Hawaii. How do I get it? I couldn't. So I've talked to like a couple of senators about Hawaii's cryptocurrency laws, and why can't I get a Doge. I call it a doggy coin. You know, why can't I get a doggy coin? That's all I
Right.
want. And then what the heck? If I would have bought what I wanted to a year ago, I'd be like, what?
Yeah,
Ridiculous
yeah,
right
you would
now
be
for
good.
like a joke crypto currency coin. Kelly, I think you're such a great role model for us here in Hawaii. Like Carissa Moore, just got the gold medal. She's always carries herself very professionally and represents Hawaii. I was like, yeah. But Kelly, you do that as well. And so every time I've spoken to you, I feel like that's just an example for us here in Hawaii. West Side, Kauai, video game player, try to solve problems, play football, and end up where you are now, giving back to our state. And so, I mean, I got chicken skin talking to you. Again, role model. Much mahalo to you and aloha to you. Any last things you want to say before we leave?
Thank you, Kala, for the opportunity, and thank you guys for everything you're doing with workforce development and for Hawaii. I think our mission, be it that by some kind of just fate that the stars align between what we're trying to do, what the Workforce Development Council is trying to do, and I really have high hopes, very optimistic for the future of our state. So thank you for having me, and I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, we'll stay on just a second. Let me just wrap this up just a little bit. Thank those of you who have been watching us and staying on with us live here. If you are watching the replay of this, drop some questions in there. It's just about opportunities. And I can't stress that enough, underline that enough. Opportunities for people in our, not just young people, right? I mean, if 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s young people, in 3 months, you can change your career path. And I think Kelly just demonstrated that. In fact, all of what Kelly just did was a demonstration for what's possible. And part of our objective in doing these live streams at the WDC, Workforce Development Council, is to show what's possible and to start creating these different trains of thoughts in the people who are watching this. So thank you very much for joining us. Again, drop in some comments or questions that you have. Remember to like and subscribe this so you can get notified of this when this happens. Also, don't forget this. I'm going to put this into the link into the description. I should have done it earlier, but there's free computer classes. Now, this is very basic. What's a mouse, left click, right click. But I think there's a path from this, which could take you 10, 20, 30 hours, 40 hours to the next step of what Kelly's talking about here, right? So this class right here is a 3-hour in-person class that is being offered at libraries and community college campuses around our state. So far, we had about 400 people go through this, and a lot of them are just tripping out that there is a wheel in the middle of their mouse. We're talking about how to turn a computer on, how to turn it off. Many people come, they don't have a computer, and so there's all these different things that's very, very basic. But what we're hoping to do is to take people from this in-person class to an online learning system with an organization called North Star Digital Literacy. So there's assessments there, there's curriculum there that goes through Office applications, and it'll just change how you think. There was a study coming out of Georgia State University or some college in Georgia where they were talking about digital literacy, and they were saying that back in the day, people who could read, had reading literacy, thought differently than people who could not read. And nowadays, people who are digitally literate think differently than people who are not digitally literate. And so we're trying to raise the tide of digital literacy in our state to have the most digitally literate place in the country, if not the world. That's the goal. That's the vision. And then we can just funnel people into Kelly's program. So thank you very much for staying with us and joining us on this. I am out. Aloha and a hui ho. Take care.